And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, March 26th. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into all that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining. Between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers, we appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day. So any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. A lot to cover today. So we're going to start off the show. We will talk about Russell Wilson signing with the New York Giants. They are bringing him in. The Giants add another quarterback. That is the second quarterback that they have added to the roster in their many days. So we'll get into that and the impact of this move. Then we will also get into some basketball. We are going to talk about the Bucks star player Damian Lillard, as he is now ruled out indefinitely with a blood clot. And we will talk about the impact that has on this Bucks team. We will also get into talking about another move that was made in the NFL, and that is Stephon Diggs signing with the New England Patriots. So the Patriots add a playmaker to their offense, another playmaker, another former Buffalo Bill, I might add, as my dog starts barking for some reason. In the fourth part of the show, so I broke it up into two segments. One we'll cover today, the other tomorrow, and that is doing predictions for Major League Baseball. So today we're going to cover the American League. I'll tell you who I think is going to win each division, and then tomorrow we'll do the National League, and we'll take a look at the games for tomorrow. Those will be two different segments. Those will be towards the end of the show tomorrow. And then in the final part of the show, we will take a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. We will do a season overview on their year and what they have done in the offseason. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Russell Wilson heading to the Giants. So we talked about Jameis Winston going to the Giants earlier this week. And, from the content creators I was watching and, really thinking about it, it's possible that, yes, based off of the contract that Jameis Winston got, that, maybe the Giants might add another veteran quarterback. But it all depends on if Russ maybe ended up going, to Cleveland, let's say, because he visited with Cleveland. If that were the case, then the Giants definitely would maybe go after a rookie quarterback. But now they bring in Russell Wilson, and he's going to be the starter. He's going to be the starter. Now, there could be a time where if Russ isn't playing well, then they're going to put in Jameis Winston. And if that's the case, then the Giants' season is not going very well. But Russell Wilson, now coming in, he will be the starting quarterback. Now, I know what I just brought up before about the Giants taking a rookie quarterback. Does that completely take them out of taking a Cam Ward, possibly if he doesn't go number one, or Shedeur Sanders? Not necessarily. But I do think this lessens the chances significantly. I think if the Giants stay at 3, which I think they have every intention of doing that, even if the quarterbacks are taken 1 and 2, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, then I think the Giants are going to take a Travis Hunter or an Abdul Carter. Now, could there be a scenario where Shedeur Sanders falls to them still at 3? And maybe they take him? Sure. But I do think, for the Giants, they should take best player available at this point. I think you wait and you take a quarterback in the later rounds, which is kind of my approach when there was the idea of Aaron Rodgers possibly coming to the Giants. Now, that's definitely not happening now. But you got some generational talents towards the top of everybody's draft boards. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. I think that is the move at 3. Now, who I would prefer, right now for me, I would prefer Travis Hunter just because he could also play offense. You could add him to that secondary, which on paper, the defense for the Giants on paper looks pretty good. But the Giants have lacked explosiveness on offense Now, you had Saquon Barkley, but he's obviously not a factor anymore. But, when Barkley was hurt, there was really nobody else. Now last year you saw Malik Neighbors in his rookie season. Now you pair Travis Hunter up with him, and suddenly look at that receiving core. You had Darius Slayton back. You got Wan'Dale Robinson. Tyrone Tracy showed promise his rookie season. Theo Johnson, the tight end. There's some weapons on this team, and if you add Travis Hunter to that, that looks pretty good. And you got Russell Wilson in there to throw the moon balls to Neighbors and to Darius Slayton, because Darius Slayton's a deep ball guy. So that works out well there. Now, for the specifics of the contract, back to Russ, it's a 1-year deal. It's up to $21 million, guaranteed money of $10.5. So, look, the Giants have done a great job with these quarterback deals. Jameis is only a 2-year deal. You could basically cut him after 1 year. And Russell Wilson is only on a 1-year deal. So, again, it doesn't pan out, and, if Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll end up getting let go after 2025, then the new regime's going to come in, and both of those guys are going to be gone. So, you got those two guys, and you got Tommy DeVito still. Because Tommy DeVito was the only quarterback on the roster. But Russ came back. Russ ended up coming in over Justin Fields. That was back in week 7. Didn't start the year, was dealing with a calf injury. So the Steelers, they made the switch. They took Fields out after the Steelers started off 4-2. They put in Russ. And he got off to a good start. The Steelers were winning games, 10-3 at one point. And it looked like they were going to be the team that was going to win the AFC North. And that ended up not happening. They finished 6-5 with Russ. Well, Russ is a starter last year, 6-5. They finished 10-7. They ended up getting knocked out in the wild card round to the Ravens. And Russ, completion rate 63.7%. He averaged about 225 yards per game passing, 16 touchdowns to 5 picks, which isn't bad. Still not the same player that he was in Seattle. They're going to be getting this kind of a player, the Giants. Now, if they would have got Russell Wilson, 6 years ago, Giant fans would be even more hyped about this. But I think this is a good fit for us. You got Brian Daboll, and I think Brian Daboll is going to coach him up. I think we're going to get, I think we're going to get a decent year out of Russ. Decent. Now, is that going to lead to a lot of wins for the Giants? Not really. And the Giants were sitting at 3.5 wins going into next year. They signed Russ. That hasn't changed. It's still 3.5. Because their schedule is impossible next year. So I wanted to go through their schedule. So this is what they have for the 2025 season. Let's go through it again. So their home games: the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Commanders. That's a given. Then you have the Packers, the Vikings, the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the 49ers. Where are the wins coming from? Now, I don't think they're going to... Look, they avoided going winless at home last year. There's at least 1 or 2 wins in there, somehow. Then we look at the away games. Now, there's definitely some wins in the away games. You have the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Commanders. Then you got the Bears, the Broncos, the Lions, the Raiders, the Saints, and the Patriots. There's definitely wins in there. But this Giants team, it's a tough schedule. It's a very tough schedule. And it's annoying because with the 49ers, the reason why they're playing the 49ers next year is because the 49ers finished in last place. And you would imagine that they're going to be healthy next year, and it's going to be a problem. Could the Giants surprise us? Like I said, sure. Sure they could. But it is a very tough schedule. And that's why, even though I like the moves that they've made, I don't think it's really going to translate to wins on the field next year. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. And you go back to that Colts game, Drew Lock had a great day, and then at the end of the game, Brian Dable said, that's what happens when you get good quarterback play. So, you brought in two veteran guys that can come in and potentially win you games. So, maybe if the Giants get better quarterback play, I like the defense on paper. Maybe they do surprise us and they win more than 3 games. I think they will. I think they will. But I don't think it's going to be by that much. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. So, right now, I do think they will take best player available at 3. And then I think you might see them take a quarterback later in the draft. They're in a good spot right now. Now, there might be some disagreements because, this team is not a team that's going to be competing for a playoff spot. But you have a regime that needs to win games next year. So they're doing the best they can. But yeah, I think the offseason has been good for the Giants. Now they got to go out and have a good draft. Continue to fill out the roster. And then let's see what happens. But what do you guys think about the Russell Wilson move to the Giants? Let me know in the comments. No problem with it. The Giants needed stability at the quarterback position. And they are going to have that next season. But like I said, is it going to translate to wins? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So we are going to take our first break of the show now. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit of basketball. We'll talk about Damian Lillard of the Bucks being ruled out indefinitely with a blood clot. So we'll get into that, and we'll talk about the impact of that will have on the Bucks as we get closer to the playoffs. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.